What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the NBA to the Galaxy pod with Scotty Drowned. I'm your host here, along with my co-host here, Slim. You can find him on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at RTR30111. Tonight, man, we got a big slate for the show. We didn't get to it this weekend on our normal schedule, obviously because Easter, the holiday. So we had a little bit of a layover there with the holiday. So we're getting back to it this week. But how you doing? Before we get into anything, my man, happy Easter. And how you doing, my man, Slim?
We doing good, bro. Happy Easter to you too. It's late, but we doing good over here. So we back at it again. So
Yeah, exactly. As long as we get to it, man. And we're getting to the most crucial part of the season, which is the NBA playoffs. So as we get closer and closer to that, we'll see more and more content coming out from here. But yeah, what we're going to get into tonight, obviously, you see the title of the show. There's going to be a lot of talk around the Eastern Conference in general. But Joel Embiid potentially returning tonight against Oklahoma City Thunder. But more or less is going to return in the near future, maybe by the end of this week at least. How does that reshape the Eastern Conference? What does the Eastern Conference look like from there? Jalen Brunson, he's been on a hell of a two-game tear the last two games, but they've resulted in losses. The injuries, right? OG Anunoby, Mitchell Robinson, Julius Randle to the New York Knicks. Is Jalen Brunson, with where he has the New York Knicks right now in the Eastern Conference, is he a 1A caliber player? We're going to talk about that. We got to talk about the Sacramento Kings out there in the Western Conference. They're competing with my man's Golden State Warriors to get into that play-in tournament. Two major injuries my man brought to my attention. Kevin Huerter out for season, and Malik Monk, I believe, out for season. Correct me if I'm wrong there, son.
I think he may come back though. I
He
think he
could.
may. He could
He's
come back.
good.
He could.
So there's
It's
a
an
little bit of an
MCS sprain, if I'm
asterisk
not
there.
mistaken. So yeah, it really
No, that's
depends
good.
though.
That's good.
So.
Malik Monk, he's a fun player, man. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Kings. Where do they go from here? Because you come into this season, right? You come out of last season if you're the Sacramento Kings. They made the playoffs last year. That was a success. Making the playoffs kind of when you weren't supposed to, but you do have Sabonis and Fox, so I don't know where else you're going to go. Those are two max players.
Right.
But nonetheless, what is a success for the Sacramento Kings this season? And will they be able to achieve that success? That's something we're going to talk about. And then we'll round out the show with some Victor Wembanyama talk to round out the show. He obviously had a crazy game in that duel with Jalen Brunson, a 40-20 game for the rookie Victor Wemby. There's been a lot of talk. I was listening to Brian Windhorst's pod today at the gym. A lot of talk around who could be eyeing San Antonio in the future, man. In the next 1 to 3 seasons, could we see one of the stars head over to the San Antonio Spurs to join Wemby there? And I think that's very possible. So I'm interested to see some names that you might have listed down there. But we'll finish out the show there. Maybe take a look at some of the matchups tonight that we're kind of keeping a close eye on as well. But let's start at the top, my man. Let's start with this Joel Embiid conversation. He's returning possibly tonight. Obviously, a game time decision. He was just updated to questionable just a little while ago. Tyrese Maxey also a game time decision tonight. But the bigger conversation here: where do the Sixers fit in the Eastern Conference with a Joel Embiid that's returning about 2 weeks before the playoffs are starting? I'm interested in your thoughts. Obviously, I'm a Sixers fan. I'm a little biased. I may have a little bit of a higher expectation with Joel Embiid. So I am curious on your thoughts here. Joel Embiid added back to the mix. Where does that put the Philadelphia 76ers in the Eastern Conference for you?
So with JoJo coming back, I would say like I think they stay in the play-in. I think that's their ceiling, because there's only
Yeah.
2 more weeks left. And if I'm not mistaken, so if they practically like win most of their games to close the season, now it wouldn't make much of a difference with it, or would it
Yeah,
make?
you would need the Heat to kind of falter a little
Yeah,
bit
see, it's
if
a
you wanted
lot
to
of like
fix.
things that would have to like fall in
You're
place.
relying on other teams,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So I
Yeah,
think they're a playing team in the season now, which is okay.
yeah.
They're like the eighth seed, right?
Yeah, they're the eighth seed right now. They are a game and a half back of the seventh seed from
So
Miami.
they would play Miami in a playing tournament, right?
Yeah, I think how does it work? So do the 7
So
and the
the
8
7 and
play?
the 8 play, and
9 and
whoever
10 play.
wins gets the 7
The
seed.
7
Whoever
seed,
loses plays the winner of the ninth and the
9
10th,
and 10.
and that's who gets the 8 seed. So yeah, but
It's
I mean,
interesting.
yeah,
That
it's
would be a
interesting.
huge
But
matchup though with Miami.
yeah, that would be interesting. That would be a huge matchup for sure.
Because I mean, I
But I
think that
mean,
for me, like just real quick, for me, the big thing is not matching up with Boston in the first round, right? Like
yeah,
the
we
8
talked about
seed.
this last episode.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that's the
that's
big thing for me.
yeah, right. But I mean, yeah, like them being a playing team is the worst thing in the world. Like
Yeah,
you talked about this last episode, like you would rather them get matched up against the Bucks than the Celtics, which is totally understandable. You know what I mean?
yeah,
The Celtics, they the number one seed in the East for a reason. Those guys have been rolling all season long. They've been consistent, and with Joel coming back, I mean, the one thing I would like to see is how Buddy Hield, how he plays
yeah.
off
The
of Joel
addition.
the most. Because I don't think like Joel Embiid had this type of shooter since maybe JJ Redick. Maybe I
Yeah.
could be wrong, but I
No,
don't think
you're
he
you're
just had
not
this
lying.
type of
Seth
shooter
Curry is
since
the
JJ
closest
Redick
thing.
played.
Seth
Oh
Curry
yeah,
was the
Seth Curry.
closest thing.
Yeah, I forgot about Seth. They ended up trading him in that James Harden deal, but yeah, I would like to see how him, Kyle Lowry, just all how the new pieces fit. Cause you brought something up which makes totally sense. Like with the addition of Kyle Lowry, just bringing that leadership out down the floor. Like, how does it look with Joel Embiid having his back, anchoring the defense opposed to a Paul Reed, Mo
Exactly.
Bamba? So I just want to see how that will look from a fan perspective. So yeah, but them being a playing team is the worst thing. You get messed up against Miami, but if you lose, you got another opportunity to play the
Yeah.
winner of the Hawks and the Bulls. So, hey, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, yeah. I would like to think they could take care of the Hawks or the Bulls. So
Yeah, right. I mean,
hopefully,
especially with Joel Embiid coming back. Obviously, I
yeah,
don't think he's 100% healthy, but I
yeah,
mean, you can still get at least 70 to 75% version of him, and he
yeah.
can get the job done for sure.
And I think that's the big thing with Joel Embiid, like getting him back this week versus next week or 2 weeks from
Yeah,
now,
for
right
sure.
before the play-in, or getting him back for the play-in, right? Like that being his first couple games back. It's like I would be a little more skeptical if that were the case, but he gets this time to like ramp up a little bit,
Right.
which has me excited, man. Everybody in Philadelphia is excited about him returning because I talked to you about this before the show, man. This season has been long as hell for me and you. You being a
Yeah,
Warriors
man.
fan, me being a Sixers fan. The season has been long as hell. So
Yes.
I'm happy to see Embiid return and give me a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. Um, you talk about the Eastern Conference reshaping, and it kind of gravitates us to that next conversation, which is Jalen Brunson. And you actually brought this to the table for me before the show as a topic, and I do want to talk about this because it's an interesting conversation in the grand scheme of the Eastern Conference, right? And when you think about who are the true 1A caliber teams, and I think you can almost group them into tiers in a sense. So we'll talk through that. But real quick, man, 61 points versus San Antonio Spurs the other night, right? 61 points on 25 for 47 shooting, 5 for 13 from the 3-point line, 6 assists, 4 rebounds in a 130 to 126 loss to the San Antonio Spurs. You come back the very next game, they have another tough loss to the Oklahoma City Thunder, where he has 30 points on 11 for 25 shooting, 7 assists. And once again, the loss 113 to 112 to OKC at the very end of the game. I believe it was SGA that iced that one.
Yeah, he had the
Um,
game winner.
yeah, and that's a whole other conversation. We need to have that conversation before the playoffs, man, because I was sitting here thinking about this OKC core and the way they're built, right? Like, and we've talked about them as contenders, but before the playoffs start, we're gonna have to have a really serious conversation about the expectations for that team
Right.
going into the postseason. But that's a whole other point.
Yeah, yeah.
SGA's cold.
Yeah.
Brunson, what have you seen from him? Not only recently, obviously the last 2 games he's balled out in some tough losses, but over this season, what have you seen from Jalen Brunson really stepping into that number one role in New York and kind of gravitating talent to New York, right? Bringing in Dante DiVincenzo
Yeah.
in, Josh Hart, now bringing in OG Anunoby, right? So really stacking up the talent around him as well. Is he a 1A caliber player to you? Is he on that level for you?
Ah man, this is so tough. I
It's a
mean,
tough question. That's a
this like
loaded
if you go
question.
back to, I brought it to your attention for a reason. Like if you go back to December, this past December, like that was a hot topic. Because on NBA Today, Becky, the coach for the Los Angeles Vase, that's the team name in the WNBA, she brought it up and she
Las
was
Vegas.
like,
Yeah, I got you.
yeah, she
Same.
brought it up like, can he be a 1A on championship caliber team? And it's kind of tough because you look at like guards around that height that have led teams to the promised land, like Isaiah
Yeah,
Thomas back in the day, Steph Curry. It's just tough. A lot of guys haven't been able to get the job done. But when I look at Brunson, man, I don't know. It's kind of hard to count that guy out, man. He's so
I know.
skilled offensively. Like his
It's
bag
the
is just
mentality.
yeah, like he got a dog mentality. Like he don't let the height phase him. Like he can post
Yeah,
guys up, get to the rim, you name it. But ultimately, you never know. Can he just lead a team to the promised land? I would want to say yes. I don't want to count the guy out because he
yeah,
has been amazing all season long. I mean, he's probably been the Knicks' best signing since acquisition since Carmelo when he first arrived.
yeah,
So yeah, because Melo
yeah.
is like what the franchise leader in most points scored in the game, and Jalen Brunson was like 1 point off from
And I
tying
mean,
him. So
the different I mean, obviously we got to see how Brunson's career plays out, but you could argue
right,
that the Brunson deal is better given what the Knicks had to give up to get Carmelo Anthony in
yeah,
a Knicks
facts.
jersey. So like
And
I mean,
then
they had to
like
trade like part a big part of
yeah,
their starting lineup for Carmelo Anthony to come over to the Knicks. So you didn't have to
exactly.
do that
So
with Brunson. He chose
right.
the Knicks in free agency.
Exactly. And it's like when I look at a guy like Brunson, like the whole team overall, like this is the start of something beautiful. Like they got OG right, an elite point of attack defender. You still got Randall.
Yeah.
You got Mitchell Robinson, Dante, Josh Hart. They got a nice team building over there for years to
Yeah.
come. They got pieces that they can move around on to get better. So to answer your question, I'm going to say yes. I think Jalen Brunson could be a 1A on the championship caliber team, man.
No, I love the answer. I love the answer. So I'm going to ask you some follow up questions here, just regarding some other stars in the Eastern Conference. I want to know if these guys are 1A caliber players. There's two guys that I have that are locks. I mean, I don't know if you'll be on the same page there. But just looking at this as in a grand scheme of the Eastern Conference, so I have Giannis written down. That's number one. Like he's a number one lock for
Yeah,
a
he's
1A
proven that
caliber
already.
player, right? He's proven that.
Right.
I would throw Joel Embiid into the mix. I know he's had the injury history. Maybe that is a reason that you can count him out of a 1A caliber player. But I think when you talk skill and top and peak of his game, which has been the last 2 to 3 seasons, he can lead a team to very high places. So maybe that's not a lock. I mean, it's a lock for me just because
Yeah.
I have to believe that as a Sixers fan.
Yeah.
But maybe that's not a
Trust the
lock.
process, man. Trust the process,
Hey,
man.
the next one I want to mention here, Jason Tatum, man. There's been a lot of conversation about Jason Tatum being a 1A this season. Look at the record. I mean, the record is crazy, right? Every year they're the number one seed or a top 3 seed at least. But you got Jalen Brown there. You got Kristaps Porzingis there, who put up great numbers. You got incredible role players there, like Derek White. You got Al Horford there with the
Drew
veteran
Holiday.
leadership. It's an interest. I have a question mark written down beside him, man. And I'm a Tatum guy. I'm a Duke fan. To be clear, I have Tatum
Right.
bias.
Yeah, that's your guy, man.
Um, and I have a question mark written down. Do you think is Tatum a lock as a 1A caliber player for you?
Is he a lot? I would
Or
say
would you
yeah, he a
put him
lot.
more in the would you put him because I guess the way I'm grouping it is I have like Jalen Brunson and a Jason Tatum would be kind of in the same category for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from
Maybe
in that
that's not fair to
sense.
Tatum. Maybe that's not. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it's not, but I mean, I would say this though. Tatum, although he never like what he like 8 years in now, 7 years in.
How many years has he been in? Let me check.
I know it's some along the lines of that, but I mean, I still give him his props. I mean, he made the Eastern Conference Finals like what 4 or 5 times now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he made the finals once. So, uh, as far
His
as him being a
numbers are
what,
great. He gets criticized pretty hard, and maybe I'm being a little unfair to
I
him.
say yeah, he's a 1A because I look
Yeah.
at like this Boston team. He has to be the guy that Okay, crunch time, give me the ball, let me go to work. He
Yeah,
has to be that guy because
yeah,
the only way I would see a scenario is if he's not a 1A is if they get a guy like, I don't know, Jokic or, well, no, I can't say that because I think Jokic would tell Tatum to be more aggressive on offense. But maybe Book, if him and D
yeah.
Book were to team up, D Book be the 1A,
That's
Tatum be
interesting.
the strong 1B, and they mix it up a little bit. But I think for this team, though, Tatum has to be the 1A because this is his best team that he has had in his career. I mean, you talk about Horford, Drew Holiday, Derek White, Brown. Like this team is stacked,
Yeah,
and they got elite role players who play their role.
perfectly built.
So yeah,
Yeah,
perfectly built. I mean, he brought it up like a few months ago, like sort of like when Kobe, when they brought in Paul Gasol. This is like
yeah,
them bringing in Porzingis for him a stretch big, a guy who
yeah.
can protect the rim and give you 20 points per game, which he has been doing this season. So yeah, I can see. I say Tatum is a lock to be a 1A for sure.
Yeah, let me be fair to Tatum. I'll put him in a tier above Brunson. I'm putting him in a tier below in beating Giannis with Embiid bias. I understand that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm putting Tatum up there. Maybe you could put Tatum and Embiid in the same category in a sense, just from superstar status. What about Jimmy Butler? He's such an interesting one because in the playoffs, absolutely, like no question about it, he's a 1A, right?
Absolutely. I say yeah. Jimmy a 1A in my
He's
opinion.
got to be right, but
Yeah,
they're the seventh seed
yeah,
right now. Like, but
he's
this is
getting
just what they
older.
do.
He's getting older for sure, but he's a 1A. If they win a chip,
It's
to
gonna be
me,
because of
yeah,
him.
yeah,
Yeah,
him. But I ain't gonna lie though, I wouldn't be surprised if Bam win Finals MVP if they were to somehow get back to the finals. I ain't gonna lie.
Bam is a baller, man.
Yeah,
He fills the stat sheet. He does it on
yeah,
both
he
ends.
does a
That's
lot
the
of stuff. And
crazy
he
part.
started shooting threes now, so
Makes other people better too with his playmaking. So yeah,
yeah,
I do
exactly.
feel you on the Bam Adebayo point.
Yeah,
What about
gotta show
Donovan
love to
Mitchell?
my guy Bam, man. Mitch, yeah, I say Mitch is a 1A because like he one of those guys like you mentioned with Butler. He gets it going in the playoffs. He kicks it up,
If
another
D
notch.
Mitch went to Miami, is he 1A in Miami over Jimmy Butler?
1,000%. I would say yeah. I think Jimmy would be so comfortable being a 1B. I feel like
Yeah,
he'll hand
I
him the
feel you.
keys.
He could
He'll
just
go
do all the little things, kind of be more of
exactly, and
that
he can
glue guy.
still like hit tough shots.
Yeah.
To help them get over the hump. But yeah, I say Mitchell is a 1A in my opinion for
Okay.
sure.
Okay. So I see where your head's at. So in that case, I get where you're coming from because I do view Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell in similar lights. I look them in a similar category. Um, so interesting. The only other guys I'll mention here, but I just don't think we know yet. I don't think it's even
Yeah.
fair to say we know. Tyrese Halliburton and
Right.
Paolo Banchero.
Yeah, I
Those
had
are the
those
other two
guys
guys.
name written down as well. So
Man,
yeah, I was gonna
Paolo,
ask you.
I got the Duke bias again, right? With Paolo Banchero. I mean, something is screaming at me that say yes, he's 1A caliber player, but I don't know. I could be Duke bias for me there.
I don't hate it. I think Paulo can be the best player on a championship team. I'm
Yeah,
not going to deny that.
he does it all.
I say
So
Tyrese Halliburton, he's interesting too, though. You really can't count
the
him out.
beginning of the season, the end of last season, balled out, right?
Yeah,
MVP candidate to start the season.
yeah.
Kind of
He been kind of
the injury,
struggling, I
right?
say, as of late, but he you really don't know with him. I'm not gonna lie. So
Yeah, I got a big question mark beside him.
yeah,
So I don't know, man. I guess because when the reason I didn't include the Western Conference is because I think there are quite a few 1As out there, like for sure.
yeah,
Um, to where like over in the Eastern Conference, I feel like there's a lot of more question marks
yeah.
throughout the
Question mark. Yeah.
conference. Because as I talked through it, I had Giannis and Embiid as my locks to begin this. I can understand Embiid not being a lock there. Like I do get that. Like I think he is a 1A. He's an MVP. Like he's won an MVP, but we have not seen him get past the second round, right? In that leading
Yeah.
role. So it's like we need some proof here before it gets too late in his career. So it
Right.
is interesting. Tyrese Maxey, man, he's a guy that I thought about, but what I would say, and Tyrese Maxey's still growing. He's a little bit younger than Jalen Brunson, and I used to compare them, right? I
Yeah.
think Jalen Brunson's a little bit ahead of Tyrese Maxey right now, and so I
Yeah.
don't think it's even fair to put Maxey in that type of conversation. I think we saw during this time without Embiid that he still does like he did his thing. He did as much as he probably could for this team during that stretch, but he does still have some growing to do in that
Yeah.
lead role, that lead guard role. So
Yeah, for sure.
um, he was an interesting guy to think about as
Yeah.
well.
This is Maxie what, fourth season, right?
Want to say it's his fourth, yeah.
Yeah, so I can understand.
22
I
now.
mean, we're going. It's the same thing with us with Kaminga. You know, he's
Yeah.
third year. You can see the growing pains, but hey, you gotta live with it. You know, the kid's special. So yeah, I can
Yeah,
feel what you're
exactly.
coming from for sure.
Yeah,
But I got
fourth
I
season.
got a guy
Who do you got?
that none of us actually brought up. He do get a lot of disrespect. I'm not gonna lie.
Who you got? I'm
Trey Young.
interested. Trae Young. That's an interesting one, man. He's injured right now too.
Do you think he could be the best player on a championship team? Can he lead them to the promised land?
My gut feeling says no because
Yeah.
of the defensive liability that he is.
Yeah.
But when I go down that rabbit hole, it's like, okay, well, is Jalen Brunson a plus defender?
Yeah.
Like, is that going to hold Brunson back too? Like, have we just not seen it hold Brunson back yet? Where we've seen it hold Trey back so far. Like
Yeah.
that is something that is an interesting conversation because you look at Trey, you look at Brunson. Brunson's a little bit thicker, a little bit more broad,
Right.
a little bit stockier, but when it comes to the defensive side of things, being an undersized guard in the NBA, how does that affect when you're supposed to be that 1A caliber player on the team? But I don't know. Maybe that's being unfair to Trey Young, man. Because I did watch this man kind of take a Hawks team, and when you look at the Hawks, who's been his second star? Like, who is the second guy that's been there for him? Like DeJounte, is he the
Johnson?
best? I'm trying to think of who was there before
Yeah, I say
DeJounte.
the Jonte, because I mean, him and John Collins had something nice going on, but I don't know
John
what happened.
Collins.
I don't. I
Yeah,
think when they traded for
Bogdanovich.
Capella, John Collins just started to like regress some, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I say Jonte for sure. Like I don't think he's had
So
nobody as good as him.
that's a good point, man. Like, give this man a great number two, and what does that team look like? That's interesting.
Right.
No, that's a good one. I would say
It
he's.
is.
I I feel like I have to put him in that conversation with like Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell, like two, undersized guards, right? That can
Right.
really control the offensive side of the out of those three guys, who are you taking? D Mitch, Brunson, Trey Young. If you had to pick one.
Man, I'm not gonna lie. If I had to pick one, that's tough. It's like I want to say Mitchell, but then again, I'm gonna go Brunson because with Mitchell, like go back to the bubble. I mean, him versus Jamal Murray, that was one hell of a series, bro.
Yeah,
Just back and forth. But
yeah,
then it's like he always shows up, but he don't really get the job done. You know, if you go back to
yeah. I know what you mean.
2022 when they lost to the Mavericks, I mean, I thought they had their number. But
Yeah,
Jalen Brunson was the X factor in that series, and he got the job done. You know, as
yeah,
a number
that's
two,
fair.
obviously he wasn't the number one option. Luca was, but
Yeah,
still he
he
was a huge
stepped up
factor
in
in
that
them getting
series,
rid of
though.
him. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt.
So yeah, I go Brunson for sure.
Yeah, I tend to agree, man. Like, if you have to look for pedigree somewhere, like championship winning, it still points to Jalen Brunson. Like, he's the guy that won a national championship, right? Like at
Right.
Villanova. So he has the experience there being a 1A on a collegiate level and leading his team to a championship. So I would say he has a leg up on them there just with that type of pedigree. So it is an interesting conversation, man. Maybe we'll have to do this with the Western Conference and maybe rank the 1A caliber players instead of like naming them. But no, it's an interesting conversation. Let's switch over to the Western Conference, though, and talk about the Sacramento Kings. This is an interesting team as we kind of go into the conversation about Wemby. There's an interesting talking point from this combo that I'm interested to hear your thoughts on. But just to start out here, the Sacramento Kings, I'm going to throw this to you. They're 43-31 right now. They're at the 8th seed in the Western Conference. They're a half game back of the Phoenix Suns for the 7th seed. They are 1.5 games up on the Lakers and then 3 games up on your Golden State Warriors for the 8th seed right now. Lost Kevin Huerter, lost Malik Monk, at least for the foreseeable future. What is a success for the Kings? Like, where do they go this season? And how confident are you that they can make it through not only the rest of this season, but then also get into the playoffs through the play-in tournament, be able to win out there? How confident are you in that?
I would say this, like, if I'm the Kings, like, I would just try to stay in the mix of things, like that's pretty much the main thing to do.
Yeah,
Just, stay afloat or being in the play-in, don't fall too deep, try to fall out of it or whatnot. But yeah, because I think eventually you'll give Malik Monk, as you mentioned, Herter, he's done for the season. That's a huge loss. One of your
Yeah,
best shooters on the team.
floor
But you do
spacing.
get Malik Monk back, I'm sure of. He's giving you 16 points, 5 assists off the bench. More than likely going to be a finalist for Sixth Man of the Year, and rightfully so. He's been good all season long. And yeah, if I'm the Kings, I just try to stay in the mix of things, but get in the play in, see if we can win, and get in the playoffs. And then the goal would be to make it past the first round because last year they lost to the Warriors in 7 games. So yeah, I say for them just try to like win one playoff series at
Yeah,
least. So you can have some momentum and build off there, and then see what you can do, and maybe even make your way to the Western Conference Finals. Who knows? Because I will say this with the Kings though, last season was a huge season for them. I mean, they
yeah,
made the playoffs for the first time in like what 18 years. So that shouldn't be taken for granted in a tough Western Conference to be exact. So
yeah.
yeah, I mean you mentioned it though, like Sabonis, that brother, like you
He's
talk
been
about a guy
balling.
who should get some MVP love. He should get it. He's been balling all season, been consistent, just being a double threat all season long, just being efficient and being assertive on both ends. So
Yeah,
yeah,
a great
the
playmaker
King
too,
just
man.
yeah, he really is, man. Just his IQ is just so high, and yeah, just even the King just really stay in the mix of things ultimately. So
Yeah,
yeah,
no, I tend to agree with you. Um, I don't know. There's two sides to the Sacramento Kings this season. There's the side where, like you said, it's just a tough ass Western Conference to even make the play in, to make the playoffs ultimately. So it's going to be tough to get done, and it always is in the West, right? There's that side of it,
right,
and then there's the other side of it where it's like they did make the playoffs last year. What is another step in the right direction? Or if they
exactly.
make the playoffs as the 8th seed and then lose first round, are they just in the same exact spot? Which I think if that happens again, if they ultimately do make the playoffs, if they don't make the playoffs, if they lose in the play-in tournament, there's got to be some serious questions around De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis in that fit and the players you have surrounding them, right? Like, obviously, they can make some upgrades, I believe, right?
Yeah, for
Getting
sure.
rid
Yeah,
of guys like Kevin Huerter, I think even as valuable as he is as a floor spacer, you can upgrade him.
yeah.
Harrison Barnes, you can
Harrison
upgrade
Barnes.
him, right?
Right.
If you can hold on to Malik Monk as that 6 man, I like that
Yeah.
role for him.
Keep Keegan Murray as well.
And
Hold
Murray, he's
on
a
to him.
big piece to that. You talk
Yeah.
about floor space, and that guy can shoot it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do tend to agree with you ultimately about this team. The crazy thing is, man, and that's the craziest thing about the West is they have a really high peak, right? But then there's also the other side. So do these other teams in the Western Conference. So it's like if
Yeah.
they get the 8th seed and they match up with the Oklahoma City Thunder
Oh
or the Denver
man,
Nuggets, are
man.
we really going to be upset at them for losing that first round series, right? Like,
Right.
it's almost not fair. Just to put into perspective, Slim, the rest of the Kings season and the way things, may potentially play out for them in April coming up, right? They
Right.
got the Clippers tonight at 10 p.m. At home. So they take on the LA Clippers. Then they go on the road. They take on the Knicks on Thursday. Then they continue the road trip up to Boston on Friday on a back-to-back against the Celtics.
Mm.
Then on Sunday they travel to Brooklyn. Okay, Brooklyn, not that tough, right? Then they travel to Oklahoma City to take on the Thunder in Oklahoma City. Then they head back to Sacramento to take on the Pelicans. Then they host the Suns after that, and then they finish out this season hosting the Blazers. So Out of what? How many games do we have here? 8 games. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them are against playoff contenders between the Eastern and Western Conference. So that when I look at that, that does worry me a little bit. But the thing I would you do need to win these games, right? These are
Yeah,
some of the teams that you're competing with.
yeah, you have to win
That
these
game against
games.
Phoenix could
You
be
have
huge.
to. You
That
have to
game
win
against
these
the
games.
Pelicans could be huge, right?
Right. You have to win these games to say the
That's
least,
sketchy.
bro. It's tough. I say if they can go like 5-8, I'd be. If I'm a fan of the Kings, I'd be satisfied with that. Cause
Yeah, 5 of
I
8.
mean, you say the Celtics, right? The
Yeah.
Clippers, the Knicks. I mean, these aren't easy teams. The only two teams that I heard you
On
name
the
was
road
probably
too, right?
yeah. The only two teams that I heard you mention there that may be easy were the Nets and the Blazers. I mean, other than that, then
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. It's gonna be tough, but hey, we'll see. Maybe the Kings get some type of if they can get like some contribution from Davion Mitchell. If he
yeah,
can make up for somewhat of Malik Monk give you, then that'll be nice for them.
yeah. No, I tend to agree with you. So the reason I said this kind of ties into the next conversation we're going to have is because I do think there's part of me that does think that De'Aaron Fox would be a great fit next to Victor Wembanyama down in San Antonio. So that's why I said, as we look at the Sacramento Kings this season going forward, what does that future look like for the Sacramento Kings? How sold are they on that Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox pairing? And I'm also just looking at, man, for this Victor Wembanyama conversation, I got a few guys written down here, but who's going to be willing to make that leap to San Antonio, right? Like, who's going to be that first guy that says, you know what, Wemby is too damn good. I'm going to try to go ahead, get in on this, and go down there and knowingly be 1B to Victor Wembanyama, right? Like, that's also part of the conversation is accepting that you are 1B to a guy like Wemby who's going to be growing over the next few years. So I'm interested in your thoughts here. Obviously, Wemby coming off the 40-point, 20 rebound game against the Knicks, a win down there in San Antonio. Also had 7 assists in that game. Then follows that up against your Warriors. By the way, Draymond had an excellent game the other night as well against Wemby.
I was proud of him, man.
Yeah,
That was one hell of
he
a
had a great
game.
bounce back game.
Yeah,
He
he had a
needed
great
that.
game, man. I gotta give him his props. He did his thing.
He needed that. That was probably his best game all season for
Yeah.
sure. Wemby against the Warriors, though, 32 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 blocks. Nonetheless, we could pick out a bunch of games from this season
Yeah.
from Wemby where he's dominated and really shown out. Even against the Sixers earlier this year when Embiid dropped 70, Wemby also dropped, I believe, 40 plus in that game. So this guy's been doing it all season. He keeps getting better. Who are some guys in your mind, or who are some guys that come to your mind when you think of who could team up with Wemby in the short future?
Man, before we get to that, what's so crazy? While we on
Yeah,
Wemby,
what's up?
to start the season, like I'm not gonna lie, I'm admit to this. I had Chet winning Rookie of the Year. I can admit to this. I had him winning Rookie of the Year. He started
Yeah,
off strong. The Thunder was rolling. I said, "Hey,
there
got a
was the
good start to the
conversation.
year." Yeah, it was a conversation, and I had him picked. But man, then a guy named Victor Wembanyama showed up. He showed up to the conversation, and
Yeah,
I think now he's the clear-cut favorite to win it. I don't think Chet has a chance anymore.
yeah.
But I mean, what are your thoughts on that though? Like,
Yeah, no, I do agree with you. Now, I did pick Wemby at the beginning of the season, but I do agree. I thought it would be closer than what it is now
yeah,
between him and Chet. I think Chet just suffers from some SGA love, right? Jalen Williams out there.
yeah,
There's a
for
lot of
sure.
guys that are young and kind of coming up as well on that OKC team, making names for
Exactly.
themselves. So I think it takes away from a little bit of the Chet hype. And then, the other side is just Wembanyama having these monster games, these signature games,
Right.
like against the Knicks in the W for San Antonio, which prompts these questions, right, of who could we see playing next to him. But no, I won't say I'm surprised that he's leading the conversation, but I am surprised that it isn't a little bit closer. But I think that
Yeah.
speaks
Same here. Yeah.
to how good OKC is and how good Wemby is as well, though.
Right. Exactly. Because I do say like winning to me kind of factor into me
Yeah,
like giving the leverage to Chet to start out. But I also understand like Wemby don't have a SGA on his team or Jalen
yeah,
Williams. So there's a lot of things that factor into that. But yeah, to answer your original question though, I mean, I kind of like broke it down. So like free agency, just a free vets, OGs.
yeah.
I feel like that'll mesh well with Wemby. So at the top of my list, I got to go with James Harden. I mean, obviously this isn't the same James Harden of the
That's
old days.
interesting.
They can give you 30 a game, but he's still an elite playmaker in this league. I mean, can you just imagine a pick and roll?
Yeah,
Him and James in the pick and roll, pick and
he
pop.
makes Zubac look good, right? Like, so I
Yeah,
can only imagine what he
yeah,
could do
that
with
would
Richter.
that would probably be like an extra seven
That's
points
a
for
good
Wemby if
one.
he play alone. A guy like Harden, and then I got Russell Westbrook. Like, how would those two mesh well? Obviously Russ isn't the same as he once was, but still just getting out of transition, pushing the break. Being a leader to Wemby, taking him under his wing, giving him good advice. So yeah, and then I got Clay, man. Like, it
Poor
pains
Clay.
me to say this, but Clay,
He
like.
does fit that.
Yeah, he does. Like, can you imagine a 7'4" guy setting an off ball screen for Klay Thompson? I mean, my
Yeah,
goodness, bro. Like,
yeah.
what would that look like? And yeah, I mean, what do you think about a guy like DeMar DeRozan though? Like, how would those two mesh? He
He's
got some
interesting.
history with Greg Popovich.
Yeah, he's played there.
Yeah, so how would those two look? So yeah, those are just like the free agency, like guys they can go out there and get. I mean, I was thinking about
Yeah,
throwing
like
back
this next
Tobias out
season.
there, but I was like, nah.
Ah, yeah. I don't know. I don't know
no,
if the
I was like,
Spurs
nah,
want to
I ain't
go
not
that
gonna do
route.
that, bro. Nah.
I
But
don't think Pop's getting down with that.
yeah.
Being the basketball mastermind he is, but no, I think those guys make a ton of sense when you look at this free agency period specifically. Um, what about Paul George? I mean, he's a free agent as well,
Oh
right? Like
yeah, Paul
nothing
George.
locked in.
That would be nice
He's
too, though. Like
interesting.
him and Wemby.
I
Like I
just
got
don't
a
know if
few
he would go
guys
to
that
San Antonio though willingly,
yeah,
right?
like I got a few guys that they can trade for because they do have picks and hella assets to get these
Yeah,
guys. But I mean, I feel like as you mentioned, like if you go back when Dame was with the Trailblazer, right? Like
yeah,
that was like probably the main thing that factored into that. Like, bro, do I really want to go to Portland?
yeah,
Bro.
yeah.
This is Wemby. This is a once in a generational type of player here. So
Yeah, and
I feel like they can
it's Greg
overlook that.
Popovich too, right? Like,
Yeah, he playing for one of the greatest
yeah,
coaches, if not the greatest coach ever. But yeah, I say like another guy, and this probably should have happened on draft night actually, and that's LaMelo Ball. Like the Hornets was so close to getting Wemby,
that's a
so
good one.
close.
That's a good one. I forgot about him.
Like
Yeah,
yeah, like LaMelo, like he don't want to. This is gonna next season gonna be his fifth season, and I mean they have been terrible since he entered the league. Although they did make the play in one season, I think, but. Other than that, they just been terrible. Like, don't get me wrong, they got Brandon Miller. He's been balling as of late, but
yeah,
like, can you imagine like a young core, a young duo of
yeah.
Melo and Wemby for many more years to come? That'd be nice to see
That is a
for
good one.
sure.
I like that pick. I like that pick a
And
lot.
then this is a guy that a lot of guys have flirted his name around with Wemby that I'm sure that you've seen, and that's Trey Young. I mean,
Yeah.
like him and Trey Young would be like the ultimate duo. Like they would fit each other so well. Like Trey throwing the lob to Wemby and whatnot.
No,
Yeah.
that's another good one, man.
Yeah, Trey Young is like leading. He's like top three in assists, and he hadn't even played in like the past month. So yeah, and one more guy that I would throw out there as far as trades, just to throw him out there, and that's Zach Levine. Hey,
Zach LaVine, man, the forgotten soldier of this
yeah,
season. That's crazy. I
yeah,
forgot
Zach Levine.
completely about him. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, like his explosiveness, just him and Wemby in the pick and roll and just running plays, feeding off each other. That'd be nice to see for sure. And finally, hopefully, we get Zach Levine to play some meaningful games, man. I mean,
Yeah, rotting away
the
there in Chicago,
yeah,
man.
he just running away. Like the first season, they had it going on with Lonzo, DeMar, Zach. They had it going on, but injuries
Lonzo
happened.
was a big loss for
Yeah,
sure.
but yeah,
Um,
those are all the guys I got to mention, man.
Yeah, no, I like those, and I think a lot of them. The first couple you mentioned are a lot more realistic than some of the guys that I'm going to mention here. But I think we're on the same page with the second tier guys that you mentioned. I'm looking at like bona fide superstars that may want to play with this guy, but I do like the idea of like a DeMar DeRozan, a Klay Thompson, just to put that veteran leadership around him. And you get those guys without trading anything as well, which I think is a big part of that. Keeping guys like Devin Vassell, down
Right.
there. You got some role players that are putting in meaningful minutes down there. So, no, I do like some of the picks there. I mentioned De'Aaron Fox already. That's more or less, does De'Aaron Fox get tired of Sacramento at some point? Does he look to move on at some point? Maybe for his second tier or his second max contract, maybe he looks down to San Antonio. Ant Edwards is a big question mark for me, man. I know Minnesota, there's no way they're going to let him go, right? And I understand that, but to play with Victor Wembanyama, to create the foreseeable best duo of the young NBA, is interesting to me. I would say this is probably the least realistic of the guys I have listed here, but something to think about on the second max contract. Could we see Ant Edwards maybe leave Minnesota and go somewhere else? Donovan Mitchell, he's another guy. He's going into the offseason this year. There's uncertainty about his future in Cleveland. Could you see him going down there to Texas?
No, to be honest, bro, like that's actually a good name. I'm glad you brought him up because as you mentioned, like I've seen reports this past offseason about, is he going to be in Cleveland long term? And a lot of Knicks fans want him to go to New York, but that's actually a good.
Then Miami rumors as well.
Miami as well. That's a good name too, Donovan Mitchell. Actually, and think about him.
You think about it, like they balance out each other in a sense. Like Wembanyama is going to help Donovan Mitchell in the defensive side of things as an undersized guard.
Sure.
So I do
anchor their defense.
Got two guys that can go out and get you 30, right? So
So what do you think about a guy like Brandon Ingram though? Like, will him and Wemby mesh well together?
He's somebody I thought about. I feel like Brandon Ingram, when you talk about him with like fits, he's never going to be like the best fit, but he's a really, really, really good consolation prize. Like he's a really good player. And I do think at the end of the day, when you talk about him not maybe being the best fit, he still is a good fit next to Wembanyama. Right. So I would agree with you there. He's somebody I thought about. Once again, like guys that are going into that second part of their career where you may be looking for that second contract that is maybe away from your current team. So he would fit into that description. Some other guys I have mentioned, some other guys I have written down here that are interesting. Tyrese Maxey, not that I want to see this happen. He's a kid that's from Texas. This offseason, he should get the max contract from the Sixers, but after you get him on that max, Embiid, whatever happens with him over the next 5 years, is there a point where Maxey decides to leave Philadelphia and maybe go back to his home state of Texas? I think that would be an excellent fit as well, man. But obviously not something I want to see personally happening.
You want it, bro.
I don't want that. I don't want that, man. But it's something I could see, man, in the future. If things go really south with the Sixers, I could see it happening.
I mean, you mentioned if things were to go south, I mean, I got to throw this out there because we haven't mentioned a big. Like, how would a front court duo of Joel Embiid and Victor look? I mean, my God.
It's interesting. It's interesting. We know Joel
because Wemby can play the 4, he can play the 3. I mean,
No, I do. I feel you on that. Speaking of a big next to Wemby, I'd written down Lauri Markkanen from the Utah Jazz, man. What does that look like? Like 2 7-footers, a guy that can space the floor like Lauri, and a guy that's not locked into Utah, right, going forward. Like maybe he is, but maybe he's not. He's a guy that's going to have options. And then some other guys like Cade Cunningham, man. Like
that's a good one.
Why would he stay in Detroit on his next contract? Why would he make that decision? I really don't know. But he's a guy that I would look at as like a guy, once again, going into the second part of his career, maybe a max contract. And then Jalen Brunson with a little asterisk. Maybe the Celtics in a year or two have to shed some salary, right, and have to move that contract.
Actually, since you brought him up, what about eventually Jalen Brown? Maybe he wants to be the number one option on the team.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. No, I think it makes a lot of sense. So there's a ton of guys that make sense. It's more or less, how is the short future going to play out for some of these guys? Are they going to be looking to switch teams? Steph Curry.
I mean, I don't know, man. That would
Go
have
play
to
for
be.
Pop, right? Like
I
I
mean,
don't
that
know.
would
I don't know.
be.
I don't
That
want that
would
to
be.
happen to you. I'm
No,
not
that should
wishing that
never
on you.
happen.
I'm
Steph,
not
you a
wishing
warrior
that on
forever,
you.
bro. You a warrior forever, bro. Don't leave. Don't do what Tony Parker did. He spent his whole career with the Spurs, and he played his last
I
season with the
swear.
Charlotte Hornets, bro. Don't do that. Stay with the Warriors forever, man.
I swear I could see it, bro. But let me see here. I'm looking at the injury report because I know we want to take a look at some of the matchups tonight. So I'll throw it to you. What matchup are you looking at specifically tonight? I want to check something on my end here.
I mean, it's the Warriors versus the Mavericks. I mean, this is a huge, huge game for us tonight, man. I mean, I'm not gonna make any promises, but I may tune in because it comes on like 9 p.m. my time, and I gotta get up kind of early in the morning. So, but I will try to watch the first half for sure. I mean, the Mavericks, man, this team has been rolling. If I'm not mistaken, they're on an 8-game winning streak, winning 11 of their last 12 games. So
Did you see that scoop shot by Luca? Was that
that
last
was
night or the night
ridiculous.
before? Oh my God, man.
That is just ridiculous. He do a good job of making the game of basketball look so damn easy when it's not. But
Yeah, you
um,
ain't lying. But
yeah, this
you
is a
aren't lying
huge.
about this matchup either,
Yeah,
though.
this is a big matchup for us, man.
Yeah.
For real, man. Because I mean, behind us, bro, it's a young team that's trying to get in. That go by the name of the Houston Rockets. That ain't slowing down.
Yeah,
I think
2
they're
games
like what.
back.
Yeah, they trying to get in. It's a little back and forth thing going on. Tari Eason posted on his IG story, telling us to come out and play, and then Draymond has something to say back. So it's a little, 2017, 2018 thing going on right here again.
That is
So
interesting. That is
yeah, but this
interesting.
Kaminga, he's been out like the last 3 games, so hopefully we get him back tonight because we're gonna need his
Yeah.
offense
You're gonna
for sure.
need
But
him. You're gonna need him against Luca too, right?
yeah,
Like the
we're gonna
defensive
need
side of the
somebody
ball
else to
too.
throw on him besides Wiggs too. So. Yeah, yeah, we need
That's
this win for sure, man. We can't
you look at
afford to
the
take any more losses.
yeah, no, I agree. And then you look at the Mavericks as well on the other side, it's like they're kind of in the same boat. Like the
Yeah,
what
big time.
the Kings are what, a game and a or 2 games back from the Mavericks of the 5 seed. The Pelicans are a half game back of the 5 seed. Suns a game and a half back of the 5 seed. So they're playing for their seeding as well, right? Trying to stay out of that play-in tournament. So this is going to be a big matchup. Um, who do you think you got the Warriors winning it?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think we pull out
Need it
and
more?
win. I mean, I feel like Draymond. I'm not gonna lie, I gotta give him his props. I think he's finally just cut out the nonsense because I don't know if you've seen, but last week he got ejected.
Yeah,
With
I
with
did.
yeah.
Unfortunately,
So yeah, I he don't need to be doing that. So I think that he's understanding. I mean, the man has Steph kind of getting emotional. So yeah, I feel like we should get the dub for sure tonight. I mean, this is a big game for sure. So yeah, we got
it's
to
gonna
get
be
this done.
interesting. It's gonna be
It's interesting.
interesting.
It's gonna be an interesting matchup for sure.
I might have to take a look at that one on the late slate. But
Yeah, if you do tap into it, just hit me up. Make sure I'm alright over here. If things
yeah, I got you. I
start to
got
go
you. I'll
left,
check on you. I'll
Yeah.
check on you, bro. Um, no, I obviously got actually 2 matchups in the Eastern Conference that are pretty interesting to me tonight. Obviously, I'll start in Philadelphia with the Sixers. Embiid is in tonight, so he is going to play tonight against Oklahoma City Thunder. It looks like the Sixers have moved to a 3-point favorite at home. I think Maxey is out with some hip discomfort, so it is going to be Embiid kind of leading the show in his return. So obviously, I'm just interested to see what he looks like tonight. That's very exciting for me. And just see, is he on any like limitations, minute
I
restrictions,
can see
anything like
that.
that?
I can see that first
Um,
game back.
and once again, just another big game for the Sixers. You look at them right now; they're a game and a half back of the Miami Heat for the 7 seed. They are what, 2.5 games back of the Pacers in the 6 seed. So far stretch to get the 6 seed. Maybe even a far stretch to get the 7 seed. But the reason I bring this up, we also got the Knicks and the Heat playing tonight. The Knicks are visiting the Miami Heat in Miami. So that's going to be a big, big game, right? When you talk about for
Yes.
the Sixers, but not only that, for the Knicks and for the Miami Heat and their playoff seeding as well. So it's that time of year where pretty much
Yeah,
every game
everything.
is going to matter to an
Yeah,
extent with
everything
how tight
counts.
things are.
Everything counts for sure. I
Yeah,
mean,
so
I think
pretty
LeBron.
interesting.
I think LeBron a few years ago said that whoever came up with with the playing tournament is an idiot, bro. So yeah, and they in the playing tournament right now. So
An idiot.
LeBron, you should be grateful,
Bron never. Hey, he never lies, right? At
Yeah,
least we think so. But
yeah.
no, that's going to be it for this episode, man. This was another fun one. Thank you to everybody that tuned in. It looks like it says there's 45 people in here right now. So
Whoa,
anybody that's out there viewing, be sure to hit the subscribe button wherever you're watching. Hit the
wait.
like button and keep helping us build this traction with the channel and with the show, man. It's
Yeah,
fun.
for sure. I mean, one last thing though, man, we gotta give a shout out to Rondo, man. I mean, he
Yeah,
announced his
yeah, we're
retirement
getting
today.
old. We're getting old
Yeah,
because
we're getting
Rondo is
old, man. We're getting
retiring.
old, bro. Yeah, Ray John Rondo
Shout out
is
to Rondo,
retiring,
man,
man.
a
Yeah, shout
legend.
out Rondo, man.
He's a Hall of Famer, right? Is he? I don't know.
I
I'm not a big history like records Hall of Famer type of guy. Like when it comes to the NBA, is
would
he a
say
Hall of Famer? He feels like one.
you can make a case for it. I
He
mean, he's a
feels like
two-time
a Hall of
champ,
Famer, but maybe I'm
four-time
wrong.
All-Star. I will say this though, that's interesting. Like this man won a championship with the Lakers and the Celtics. Like it don't
Yeah,
get no better than that, man.
yeah.
I mean,
Two of the greatest franchises.
two rivalry franchises. You won a ring with both.
It is
So,
interesting, man. So,
yeah, shout out
uh,
Rondo, man.
shout out to Rondo. Enjoy retirement. Hopefully, stay out of trouble. Right, like that's a big thing. I think people just get bored when they go into retirement, start getting a little
Yeah,
reckless. So just relax a little. But yeah, shout out to Rondo, man. We're getting old. Guys are gonna keep retiring. Like I was looking at, I was thinking the other day because there's been a lot of talk. Like, should the Sixers go after Paul George this all season? I was looking at his age. I'm like, damn, Paul George is like 34,
34,
35 years old.
35.
Like,
Yeah. He gonna want
god
the max
damn, like
contract too.
God, we're getting old. They're getting old, and like some of the greats are really, really
Yes.
approaching that part of their
Yeah.
career where retirement starts knocking on the doors. So definitely cherish it. But that's going to be it for this episode. Enjoy the hoops tonight. I think we got games already live. But once again, thanks
Yes,
to
sir.
everybody for tuning in. Be sure to give myself a follow on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at Scotty Drown. Give my buddy here, Slim, a follow at RTR30111 on Twitter or X. And check in with us next week. We'll be right back. Won't say the same time. We're going to try to get it out on Sunday. We're going to try to get it recorded and get it out to you guys a little bit sooner in the week. But with Easter, obviously, things change. But that's going to be it for this episode, guys. Have a great rest of your evening. I love the ramble.